Welcome to Dishing Heat with Wolfie and Big Shots on. I'm your host, Nathan Wolf.
And I'm your co-host, Max Song.
It is currently December 5th at 8:20 p.m. Mountain Time, and it has been a bit. It is the sixth episode of Dishing Heat. We're back with a special one because it has been a long time, and the season is a few months, a month and a half underway, something like that, about 25 games into the season. We decided today that we're going to take a look back at the signings from last offseason. This be free agent signings, contracts, extensions, and if the player was in a sign and trade, we'll also mention briefly how that move got there. And for today's episode, we'll be ranking them into three different categories. We will have the first category of the minimum to $6 million. This is all per year. Then the $6 to $15 million range, and then the 15 plus range for all our different signings. We'll have a top three, and then if we have any honorable mentions, just a disclaimer: we're not necessarily saying that number one is number one because we tried to diversify our picks, but some of them are very clear, and it's maybe the picks that have surprised us the most, or in a way maybe proven us right if it was the player we were really excited about, or a player we've been watching, something of that nature. So, Max, do you have any honorable mentions, or do you want to start with your third pick for the minimum to $6 million range?
I'll just start straight off with my third pick, and that is Bobby Portis. His contract is 2 years, $9 million. This season he's averaging 15 and 9 on 48-42 splits. Granted, he's only shooting 2.5 threes per game, but he's just been great off the Bucks bench. He's shooting great, he's spacing the floor, and he's bringing all the energy for the Bucks. So in third place, I have Bobby Portis.
Yeah, I also have Bobby Portis here. I'm not on the list because you picked him, but I honorable mention because this was such a great offseason for the Bucks, and I'll get into that a little later. But yeah, he's been underrated since basically since Chicago. And dudes don't even remember this guy was on the Bulls. The splits are awesome. He's been beyond insane for $4 million, and definitely expect him to opt out of his contract this season because he's on a player option. But my player I'm gonna go with is a true legend to me and a player that I hold near and dear to me. It's JaVale McGee, who's currently on 10 and 7 on 66% from the field. And this is the 1 year, $5 million contract. And this is just, he was brought in to do something, and he is doing exactly that. This is the most rebounds he's averaged in a few seasons. This guy is also a winner. When you bring him to a team like Phoenix that's really looking to win this year, this is an awesome signing for them. He's actually he's even started 6 games for them this season. Granted, his minutes are not like the highest, but even given that, the 10 points per game is awesome. He is the technically like the second/third center on the roster with Frank Kaminsky there, but with him injured, JaVale McGee has been awesome. He's really underrated by a lot of people, but I mean, there's so many great JaVale McGee has. Look up a compilation of all his snatch blocks. If you want to look up a compilation of all his dunks, one of my favorite calls of all time is the JaVale McGee call where he's left open at the top of the three. And the announcer goes, can he shoot three? He is going to shoot a three. JaVale, he got it. And he runs back doing his ridiculous celebration. And the announcer gives, the famous line, when in doubt, shoot. And that's what JaVale does. I love JaVale this season, so for sure, he's my third pick.
No, I agree. I think JaVale McGee has been underrated for quite a bit because of Shaq, actually, because he's always on Shaq and the Fool. He's always jumping with people and getting dunked on. But that's what makes him so good, right? He's not afraid to contest on defense. So that's why you see him getting dunked on a lot, but at least he's contesting the shot every single time. He's a great rim protector.
For sure. He's a guy especially you also really want when it comes to playoff time with those 3 rings. He won them all in that 4-year stretch with Golden State, then the Lakers. Very important in the Golden State titles, not as much the Lakers, but he still played in those series. Moving on, who do you have as your second pick?
Speaking of the Lakers, I have Carmelo Anthony here, a 1 year, $2.6 million contract, 14 and 4 on 44-43 splits on 4 attempts a game. On like a very bad, I want to say, Lakers roster, on like Lakers team, Carmelo Anthony has been one of the bright spots on it.
Yeah, Carmelo Anthony. I'm going to give you some stats really quick about Carmelo Anthony. These are all as of November 27th, so slightly old, but I did write a whole thing on Carmelo Anthony. So basically, at this point, he's averaging 15 and 4 on 44-81. That's fantastic, especially that 44 3-point percentage, which is not only the best mark of his career, but he's actually also taken the most amount of threes in his entire career, despite the fact he's taken the second lowest amount of field goals, which is just crazy. Even more astounding is his 57% efficiency field goal, which is over 6% better than his next best season, which is like just insane, and 9% better than his career average. They actually wanted this man out of the league, and now he's probably one of, if not the best six men in the league, and averaging the highest efficiency of his entire career in this new role. It's absolutely awesome to see. And another interesting thing about his season, and really the thing that I think is really important, is that through the 21 games that he's played to this point, his best 7 games by field goal percentage, the Lakers are 7-0. In his remaining 14 games, 3-11, which is insane. The contribution to winning from this guy is absolutely nuts. He also had 2 of the best games of the season on 2 of his 3 lowest minutes of the season, which is just astounding to me. He came in for 2 different games at like 20 minutes and just absolutely shot the lights out and led both to win. So he's just been fantastic this season. I'm a huge Carmelo Anthony fan, so it's awesome to see him absolutely thriving. And yeah, I think this is just far and away one of the best signings, and I can't believe this guy was out of the league for basically like a season and a half.
Yeah, I think in terms of contributing the winning, he's actually maybe slightly better than he was before. He's more matured as a player and he knows his role. So yeah, he's been great.
Yeah, for sure. Moving to a different note though, what would be your worst contract in this range? Maybe someone that surprised you with that you thought would be a good contract, or someone who's just been straight up disappointing. So who do you have in this tier?
This pains me to say as a Nets fan, but Blake Griffin. When he got signed, I was so happy the Nets took him over Jeff Green because I thought he was a better fit for us. He played great defense, he's hustled, and he was stretching the floor last year. But this year he's been so bad. He has a contract of 1 year, 2.6 million. He's granted leading the league in charges drawn, but listen to these stats. He's averaging 5 points, 5 rebounds on 32-16 splits. I repeat, 32-16 splits. Every time he shot the 3 ball, I was groaning because he would miss it every single time. Like, there was a stat at one point before he got benched by the Nets where he spent 1.5 months just not making a single three, and that's just it just he's been horrible this season.
Yeah, it's been unfortunate. The only guy I don't know. I saw a lot of stats about how Anthony Davis was the worst jump shooter in the league, but it might be Blake Griffin. For my pick though, I'm gonna do kind of what you did and go with a player from my favorite team. In fact, not just one player, friggin' every player. We're gonna go Didi Luoza or Luzada, Najee Marshall, Thomas Satoransky, and Garrett Temple, all from the Pelicans. Granted, they did not sign Garrett Temple and Satoransky. They were from the sign and trade, but I just need to talk about how awful. I mean, Didi's on like a 4 year, $8 million contract, and he hasn't played. I granted he's young, so I see how they're trying to develop him, but like we'd like to see him. Najee Marshall has played in 18 games and is shooting 32-13. That's worse than Blake Griffin splits. And that was the guy that had actually been kind of a bright spot last season. Satoransky I thought was going to be awesome, especially after what he did overseas, and he friggin' knocked Canada out of the World Cup. He's shooting 33-21, 15 minutes a game. He's played 20 games. He's averaging 2.8 points per game. That's beyond horrific. Garrett Temple's the best out of the bunch. He's shooting 39-36 on 5 points per game. It's just all these guys have just been a disaster. It's really just frustrating that none of these guys are good, and the sign and trade, it just makes the sign and trade look so bad. The whole offseason looks so bad, other than the one bright spot, which we'll get to in a few segments here of JV, of course. But yeah, it's just I did need to mention this because people need to understand the money that was thrown at with the contract, the cap space, the money that was thrown at these guys, that it's just not doing anything. But lastly, we're gonna now switch to something a little bit happier. What is your best contract in the minimum to $6 million range?
This is a guy that's been clowned a lot for quote unquote fumbling the bag, but I have Dennis Schroeder. He has a very small contract compared to what he's been offered. He signed a 1 year, $5.9 million contract with the Celtics. This season, he's averaging 18, 5, and 4 on 45-36 splits. Like, he's been so good for the Celtics, and he's been really good in crunch time as well. Like, a lot of the times, you'll see Ime Udoka, the Celtics head coach, actually run the play through Dennis Schroeder in crunch time, and it actually leads to more wins than Tatum does statistically. He's also very good on defense for a guard, and he just locks people up on the perimeter a lot of the time. So, yeah, even though he's getting clowned a lot, I think Dennis Schroeder is the best signing in this range.
Yeah, that's a great pick. This guy, his whole career with signings and trades has just been really interesting. I remember he was traded in the Carmelo Anthony trade to the Hawks. And then when he got to OKC, his first season, not so good. But his second season, where I thought he really could have and maybe should have won Six Man of the Year that year, was just awesome. So this year he's putting up numbers in that ballpark, which is yeah, it's really nice. That was such a steal for the Celtics coming off the Kemba Walker debacle. This has been really nice to get a guard that's actually kind of showing up. For my pick, I'm gonna pick some guys, not just one, but actually lots of guys, because I was so happy with Golden State's offseason, what they did. We're gonna go with Iggy, Bielitsa, GP2, Otto Porter. And we'll mention Chris Chiozza just for a minute here. But starting with Iggy, he's playing over 20 minutes a game, and he's just providing the veteran presence that a guy like Iguodala does, and of course that defense. I mean, he hasn't been like the best or of anything by this group, but it was just good. It made a lot of sense to bring him back, especially now they let him go go leave for a bit while they were rebuilding and coming back from injuries or whatever, and now they bring him back when they're trying to contend. I really like that. Next we got Bielitsa. I was so happy when he was signed. He's not playing as well as I thought he would play, but he's just a really solid stretch five that's fit exactly what this team needs. I thought he was the perfect signing for Warriors basketball. GP2, you don't have to believe me, but you should, because I've been love GP2 since he was in the G League, and I was really excited when he got his chance. The 7 points per game on 68-40 is awesome, along with, of course, that insane defense and unmatched energy. And it's really made him one of the best signings in the league this year, especially compared to Avery Bradley. I believe they cut at the last minute to get him, and I believe he's like negative 100 or something, plus minus. I saw somewhere. I don't know if that's true, but I mean, that's crazy. And Otto Porter, who may be the best of this bunch, 7.5 points per game on 46-42. I mean, he's had awesome moments too, like when he scored 9 points in like 40 seconds this year. He's just such an amazing signing for so cheap for a player that's like right in his prime, who's just providing a lot for the Warriors. I really like this signing when it happened, and I really like how it's turned out for them. He's just been great. Every time I watch a game, I find that Otto Porter is doing work. And then Chris Chiozza, he did that one cool thing on the Nets, so that's cool. I wanted to mention everyone that they signed. And he's shooting 40% for three, so that's cool. I watched him make a three. That's all for him.
Yeah, honestly, I think Otto Porter is the best out of the bunch, and he probably should be getting more minutes. He's stretches the floor and he plays good defense. So yeah, I think the Warriors had a very, very good offseason.
Yeah, for sure. They did, of course, let go of Oubre, who actually is on my list a little later. Speaking of which, we got the $6 to $15 million category. So who do you have as your honorable mention or third pick, depending on where you went in this category?
For my third pick, I have Alex Caruso. He has a 4-year, $37 million contract. Like the Lakers made such a tactical error when they let him go, to be honest with you. They can't guard anyone. They let their best defender in Alex Caruso go, leading the league in steals, coming off the bench, playing under 30 minutes a game this season, which is ridiculous. He's averaging 2.2 steals a game. He's only averaging 9, 4, and 4, but like I said, he brings off the energy off the Bulls bench. He really guards the opponent's best defender on every single night, and yeah, he locks everyone up.
Yeah, especially when you look at what the Lakers did, they went and got THT for that. That was what they did with the money. When you're talking about the tactical error, who's currently on 10 points per game, 5 boards, 38-25. So yeah, Alex Caruso's been awesome. In my third pick, we're gonna go a little bit different. We're gonna go with the Will Barton. I think he's a little over 15. It's kind of cheating, but I've been watching a lot of Nuggets basketball, and they're depleted right now. And Will Barton is putting in work for them. 16 points per game, 5 boards. That 4 assists too is really nice. Especially for him, he's not been a guy that's necessarily been doing that. So that's really nice to see. 45-38 splits, and he's just had to be a pure scorer, and that's what he's done for this team. So it's been really nice to see, because they have needed someone to step up with MPJ, who may or may not be on my worst contracts right now, because it's just not looking good for him. And they needed people to step up with him, and of course Jamal Murray out, and Jokic missed a game or two. I mean, there's been a lot of situations where he has to have been the guy, him and Aaron Gordon, and he's really showing up. So he was my third pick.
Yeah, this year Will Barton has been way more consistent than previous seasons. Like, announcers would typically refer to him as a Swiss Army knife, in which he could hurt you guys or help the Nuggets significantly on either night. But this season, he's just been great on basically every single night. So yeah, that's a great pick.
Yeah, for sure. I like what the Nuggets have done with this team, and I think he's been great this year. Moving on, what is your second pick in this category?
I have Rashawn Holmes. He signed a 4-year, $47 million contract. He's currently averaging basically 15 and 10, slightly under that. I really need to emphasize this efficiency here. 70-50 splits. Dude's shooting 70% from the field and 50% from three, averaging 15 points. That's ridiculous. Like every time I watch the Kings play, which is rarely because they're a poverty franchise, but every time I do watch them play, he has this little turn floater thingy where he's a little bit away from the basket. Dude literally never misses that. And he's just been so good this year. He's been great previous seasons, but this year especially, he's just been excellent.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with you on that pick. I think it's a solid one for sure. I just haven't watched, as you were saying, I haven't watched a lot of Kings basketball, and it kind of took me by surprise when you brought up his numbers. So that is definitely nice to see for them. My second pick was a guy I wanted to mention here, Kelly Oubre. Um, Let me pull up Ubre's numbers really quick. They're very Will Barton-esque in terms of, compared to my last pick. 15 points per game, 4 boards, doesn't have the assist totals, only 1 assist. 45-38. Not necessarily where he was in that Phoenix season, but the numbers in terms of efficiency are there. It's just not necessarily the points per game, which is nice to see because last year he just unfortunately did not play that well. He got clowned a little bit, especially for the first half of that season. He started picking it back up. Don't get me wrong, I still like what Golden State did with their offseason, but it's been nice to see Kelly Oubre get back into form, and I thought I'd mention that because um, his contract is $12 million a year, and he's only 26, which means that Charlotte, who's been a surprise this year, could definitely make the playoffs for sure. If they're looking to contend next year, the Kelly Oubre is going to be a great piece to have. So I thought I'd mention that. But switching gears, what was your worst contract?
This again makes me very sad to say, but my worst contract is Reggie Bullock. When he got signed, I remember talking to you immediately over Instagram, talking about how it was one of the most underrated signings of the offseason. But he's been so bad this season. I thought he was a really good 3-and-D addition to the Mavericks. I was very wrong. He's averaging 5 points on 34-28 splits. The dude is getting paid 31 million over 3 years to do what? Play 20 minutes and like airball some threes. Like, he's just been really bad this season.
Yeah, I was actually also excited about that signing. I like Bullock since I believe he was on the Pistons with Reggie J and Blake Griffin and Drummond, and how that core has fallen. It is a very different time than when Reggie Bullock was shooting 49, 45, 11 points per game, and Detroit was in the playoffs. My pick is one that I just want to say it's not really the worst. Again, I'm picking a little biased here, but for what they traded to go get Devonte Graham and what they got in return for Lonzo Ball is pathetic. Devonte Graham, listen, he had a game winner. Okay, I didn't slander him for one day, but he also has the third worst field goal percentage by any player in the fourth quarter. I mean, their guards have. I mean, don't get me wrong, Akil has also not been good, but Devonte Graham has just been bad. His field goal percentage is actually higher than last season and identical to his 2 seasons ago. His 3-point percentage is down. Is 35%. For a guy who's shooting 38, 35, it's just not helpful. He needs to be an absolute knockdown. Like, really, he needed to be a 40% 3-point shooter. And the fact that he's not is just ridiculous. He doesn't offer any defensive value. His 2-point field goal percentage is just awful, and when it's contested, it's even worse. He's one of the worst in the paint field goal percentage players just in the league. His assist numbers are down too from the last 2 years. It's on a downward trend. It's the contract is bad at $12 million a year over the next 4 years. But what's even worse is what they gave up for him. So just so disappointing from Devonte Graham. But who was your best contract in this category?
Patty Mills, and it's not even close. He's getting paid over 2 years, $16 million. And yeah, I've loved this guy since the Spurs days. He just doesn't stop running around looking for an open shot. It's Curry-esque. Like, currently he has the highest 3-point percentage in the league on 4 attempts per game. He's averaging 13 points on 46, 47 splits. And even more impressive, since Joe Harris went out because of his sprained ankle, he's starting and he's averaging 18 on 50, 50, and 100 splits. Like, coming off the bench, he's been ridiculous. But starting for us, really, he's really one of the only reasons, along with LaMarcus Aldridge, why we're winning games while James Harden is playing like he hasn't played basketball for 5 years. So yeah, Patty Mills has been maybe, I want to say like the third best player maybe on the Nets this season.
Yeah, he's awesome for sure. He's been awesome. He was awesome for, I believe, Australia overseas last summer. That's kind of what I thought Thomas Satoransky would maybe be, it started to take that momentum, but Patty Mills really took that momentum and ran with it. He's been awesome. You've been talking about him since day one. We have been a little biased. I'm not gonna lie in this pod, but that's okay because there's a reason for it for sure for all of them. I'm gonna go with my pick on another contract that I like the future outlook of, but I also really like the way it's looking now. It's the contract extension of Grayson Allen, 2 years, about $20 million. Right now this season, he's averaging 14 points per game on 46-43, and that's just fantastic. Again, this is what I was talking about when I said Milwaukee's had a great offseason. With Dante DiVincenzo out, they needed someone guard to step up. So what they did is they let Bryn Forbes go, and they brought in Grayson Allen, and it's just been awesome. The 14 points per game is the highest mark of his career. The 3-point percentage is the highest mark of his career. Rebounds is the highest mark of his career. It's just been great to see. And then his extension kicks in for 2 more years. He's 26 right now. That brings him right into his prime. And right as Milwaukee's trying to contend, they pick up an awesome piece like this. This is going to be a year for them for sure. But even if it's not, they can get everybody back, reload. Next season, I mean, granted they may not have Bobby Portis, so maybe the window is right now. And with this contract, it's looking really good. So yeah, I wanted to bring up Grayson Allen because he was a player I really liked last season on Memphis. I thought he was a really great piece for them, and he's been even better this year. So that's been awesome to see. Moving on to our last category, we have the $15 million plus category. Do you have any honorable mentions, or do you want to move straight to your picks for this category?
I think I'm just gonna move straight to my picks because there weren't that many big contracts like this, to be honest with you. For third place, I have Chris Paul. Like, he got paid $30 million a year over the next 4 years, so that's probably a little bit of an overplay for a guy of his age. But this season, I think it's more than worth it. He's averaging 14, 10, and 4 on, like, not the best splits, 38, 34 splits. But him as a leader and him as a playmaker is just absolutely out of this world. He led to the Suns to an 18-game winning streak with Devin Booker, and he has the best seed in the West right now. So I think, especially this season, that $30 million has been worth it.
Yeah, it's been a good signing. A guy I want to bring up really quickly is just Lonzo Ball. I mean, he's shooting 41-42. The 3-point percentage being the higher than the 2-point percentage is because that's all he does, and that's all he did last year, and that's all he's here for this year. And his 3-point percentage just goes up and up and up every year. It's great to see. He's getting looks on that awesome Chicago team. He's still only 24. The contract's going to keep looking better. It looks a little steep right now. I'm not going to lie, but I think it's going to keep looking better. The playmaking and the rebounds are obviously still there. I think as long as if he can just work his way into being more aggressive going downhill and getting that field goal percentage up along with that 3-point percentage, that's a guy whose contract's going to look great. But moving into my list, this is a slightly long list because I just wanted to bring up a lot of different guys, and I'll let you talk about some of the ones that you wanted. We're going to start with John Collins because the big debate on whether they were going to bring him back, how much money he was going to want back. He wanted a max. He did not end up going for a max. He ended up going for about a 4-year, $100 million contract. And he has a player option on the 5th year, I believe. And right now he's averaging 16, 8, 2. And the splits are just so unique. 57, 40. And this is a guy who's, I mean, sure, he's only taking 3 threes per game, but the field goal percentage is just great for him. I mean, the rebounds are there for sure, 8 boards a game. The 16 and a half points is not necessarily what you want from a guy on $25 million, but for what a guy who wanted the max, it's a great to get him at this price.
Yeah, I think John Collins is just a stud, to be honest with you, and he works so well with Trae Young that the Hawks, even though they probably overpaid him a little bit for what he's providing, they needed to do that in order for him to stay with Trae Young. So I think they made the right move there. And also, he puts someone on the poster every night. So, like, yeah.
Yeah, he's been great. Who do you have as your next pick in this category?
I got Norman Powell. His stats are out of this world. I believe you brought him up a couple of podcasts ago in our Dishing Treat Halloween edition episode, and like how high you were on him. He signed a 5-year, $90 million contract. He's averaging 16 on 48, 43 splits. And on a Blazers team that hasn't been the best, he's been really good for them. And yeah, he can do everything. He can shoot, he can drive towards the basket, and yeah, he's just been great.
Yeah, oh no, I think I brought him up on the last one because we said we were talking about Norman Powell for Trent, and I was saying how I really thought they won that trade with Norman Powell, and yeah, he's been spectacular. It's that efficiency. It's just been awesome. I really like him there. Portland's a weird team, but he's just been really good. 29 minutes a game, and he's shooting that, like you said, I believe that the 48, 43. Norman Powell has been absolutely awesome. That's a great contract. That was on my list, but um, I'm gonna just go to my pick instead of that, and we'll go with JV because this is the one signing. This is the one thing the Pelicans did really well. I believe he may still be on the last year of his last contract, but he was extended. Um, oh no, this is extended for an extra. I believe this is 2 years, 30 million. He got extended for. Picked him up in that Steven Adams trade because the Steven Adams situation was also a debacle. We traded a first for him just to trade him again. But when you get Jonas, a guy like Jonas Valanciunas, who is kind of akin to Norman Powell in the terms, the fact that when everyone's healthy, he should be maybe the third option on that team. 18 points per game, full 12 rebounds, 50, 47 from 85, which is insane. Uh, One of now the all-time greatest highlights just ever will be the fact that he made 7 threes in one half. That is Chandler Parsons-esque. It's just amazing. And it was honestly unbelievable. It's that three-point percentage that is top, I believe, 5 in the league, maybe top 3. He actually counts now because of how many he's taking, 2.6 a game. With this team being just, there's been turmoil and it's been a disaster and injuries and BI was missing for a while. He's just been solid the entire time. Um, and yeah, that Valanciunas signing is looking awesome. I loved Valanciunas on Memphis. I remember when they traded him, and then he just went off for the greatest 20 game stretch of his career, and now he's playing basically even better than that. So it's awesome to see.
Yeah, JV been underrated ever since his Toronto days. Actually, I think he's just really good. He has an awkward looking shot. He just throws out the basket, but it goes in at such a high clip. He's an elite post up player, and yeah, JV's just been excellent.
Yeah, his shot is Chris Boucher-esque in the way that he kind of throws it, and I love both those players for sure. So Boucher struggled this year, but JV's been awesome. So now I believe we move on to what was your worst contract?
It's not even close for me, and it's Duncan Robinson. Uh, Duncan had a good game yet last night, I think. So this is bad timing bringing him up, but he's been atrocious this year. He has the same contract as Norman Powell, 5 years, 90 million, but he's averaging 11 on 36, 33 splits. He got paid because he was one of the top shooters in the league, and he's shooting 33% this year. If you've watched Heat games this season, you'll see that basically what he's doing for a vast majority of the game is just running around and getting his cardio in. So he's just been horrible.
Yeah, he was also on my worst contracts list. If you've watched Heat games too, which I've found myself doing a bit this year, it's just been really unfortunate. I'll go a different direction though for my worst pick. I will give a little honorable mention, or I guess dishonorable mention to MPJ. The fact that he's injured obviously just makes the contract bad. I believe it's just really unfortunate for this team because you really wanted everyone to get back together, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen. But let's not forget he was awful before he got injured. 9 points per game on 36-20 splits, so it's not like I'm out of pocket just because of the fact he's injured. I'll also give another mention to Kyle Lowry, who's averaging 12, 5, and 7 on 42, 31. This is the first time we've really seen Kyle Lowry truly drop off a cliff. Like, we could tell that he was getting worse. And I remember when he signed the 2 year, like $80 million contract with the Raptors, I was like, that felt like an overpay. And maybe it wasn't because it was necessary, but this one is going to look like an overpay. Maybe maybe it was necessary. Maybe they needed to bring him in. They also gave up Achua, who's been I believe pretty good for the Raptors this season. He's just a good energy guy. I mean, listen, not awesome to be honest, but like he's a future guy. And Lowry just hasn't been great. I think he will figure it out, but right now it's looking really awful. And then lastly, our best contract. I believe we both have the same one, but what is your best contract?
DeMar DeRozan. Like, I can't believe that GMs had him as the worst signing of the offseason. That was ridiculous. Granted, he's getting paid a lot of money, 3 years, 85 million, but he's been the best player in the Bulls this year. He's averaging the most points since his, I believe it's 2017, like season with the Raptors. And yeah, he's just been amazing. He's averaging 26, 5, and 4 on 50 and 33 splits. He was underrated while he was with the Spurs, and he's a really good playmaker as well right now. So yeah, I don't know why the GMs haven't had him as the worst signing of the offseason. I think he was maybe the best.
Yeah, me neither. I love DeMar with the Spurs. DeMar with the Spurs, first of all, was one of the best clutch players in basketball. But of course, not a lot of people watched Spurs game in that time, so maybe they just didn't know. I don't know how GMs couldn't know about this guy. I mean, his 3 point percentage is on 2.5 looks, which is the most he's taken since that 17-18 season. But the one you're referring to, I believe, is the 16-17 season where he was awesome. But this season was he's awesome. 50% from the field. Um, Demar is such a good player. I when he became a free agent, really no one kind of knew what the market for him was. Like I was watching somewhere where someone was saying that they would this contract, this type of contract, they could totally see. They could totally see like a 2 year $30 million contract because no one knew what the market for this guy was. I think this is more where his market is, what his contract is right now. I know he's on the wrong side of 30, but he's just been awesome because he is awesome. He's a 2 level scorer, but he's one of the best 2 level scorers in the league and one of the best clutch players in the league. So he's really been awesome, and I think he's the clear best player in that tier. But maybe we missed somebody. So definitely you can let us know on our Instagram at Dishing Heat. It should be in our link tree. I really appreciate you for watching this podcast, the 6th episode. Yeah, make sure to hit up the link tree. Hit up Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever YouTube, wherever you want to watch your podcast. Subscribe, follow, add, do what you got to do to see you guys. And a big shout out to anybody who had Dishing Heat as their #1 podcast on Spotify Wrapped. I really appreciate you. And it's been a good one. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll be back when we'll be back. See ya.